Hi everyone, welcome back to the Graft Concept Podcast. Today I'm here with Jordan Stachini, who is a marketing expert and founder of Co&Co based out of Manchester. Jordan and I met through the social collective and networking group in Manchester, and we're going to talk about today sort of personal development and how that can impact your career and sort of just general life. So Jordan, what
Hi.
is what is marketing, first of all? It's such a broad term.
Oh my God, yeah, that's a really broad term. So marketing for me is actually quite boring. It's quite commercial. It's how do you do something, influence someone to get them to give you money that they weren't expecting to part with. Um, I have a saying that everything can be measured, and if you're not measuring, you're not marketing, you're gambling. So from my perspective, marketing should be really ROI focused. I'm probably ROI obsessed in terms of how marketing people go. Um, and
ROI is return on
return
investment.
on investment,
Yeah.
yeah. But that can also mean lots of different things. So, and this is something that we kind of talk to clients about a lot, is your return on investment can be measured in lots of different ways. So a little bit like all jacuzzis are hot tubs, but not all hot tubs are jacuzzis. All sales are conversions, but not all conversions are sales. So you shouldn't just be aiming for a sale all the time with your marketing. Marketing is about getting someone to do something. And that could be download some content, that could be give you their data, that could be buy something, it could be to tell someone else about you. So your return on investment needs to be measured on what do you want that person to do and how much money you're going to spend on it. I could spend 10 grand and say that I want to increase word of mouth. Okay, well, I'll have to find a way to measure that. But ultimately, the more people I can get to pass around about Co&Co via word of mouth, the better my return on investment of the 10 grand is going to be. So for me, marketing is about measurable impact that you can make on whatever your objective is in the marketplace. And that doesn't matter whether you're selling guinea pigs, properties, toothpaste, it's all the same principles ultimately that run through.
Yeah. And so what made you found Co&Co? What made you want to have your own business?
So I didn't, to be completely honest. It
Right.
was it's kind of just all happened not by accident, but it's kind of happened slowly. So I prior to starting Co&Co was head of marketing for an investment company, property investment company, and had previously been head of marketing for another property investment company before that. And I kind of just got to a point where I had built myself a good reputation in the industry. I was head of Europe and Africa for one company at like 28. So I'd really kind of shot through the ranks, as it were, and worked for a company that really believed in me, put a lot of trust in me, and was really encouraging of my career and, you know, my ability and stuff, which I was really fortunate to have done. And I learned a lot there. And you know, I think there are probably things I'm doing today that I wouldn't have done had I not worked for that company. But it kind of got to a point where a bit of a catch-22. I'd built this reputation where everybody knew, you know, kind of what I could do and what my skill set was. And I was always being approached by different people for come and do it for us, kind of bring your bag of tricks really and come and do it for us. And I didn't want to do that anymore. I thought I could, and you know, I might enjoy it for 6 months, then I'll be bored and I'll want to move on. So I was talking to a friend of mine who also owns his own agency, and he said, why don't you just do it for yourself? Like, if you can do it kind of with your eyes closed, why don't you just go and do it for everybody? And the idea was just to be a consultant 3 days a week with my laptop, kitchen table. And it's kind of got a bit out of hand now. So we're nearly 5 years on. We actually say we weren't a we then, it was just me. But that fly.
Got fly somewhere.
That fly is really annoying.
Yeah.
It's good for the camera. So yeah, I actually started the business on the 24th of February 2020, which was a month to the day before the world, or the UK especially, went into lockdown. So 2020 was a great time to start a business. But I kind of made my decision. I was going to consult, and I'd had a couple of clients lined up. I'd like to say I was really brave and just went into where I was working one day and said, I'm off. I'm going to go and try and do this on my own. Had people lined up. And luckily all that stayed in bed. So that allowed me, those couple of clients allowed me to leave the job I was in and start this consulting role for them. Which kind of just was my plan. That's just do that. And as I say, a few days a week, kitchen table or wherever I wanted to be. But it's kind of grown legs a little bit. And now we've got a team, got an office. And I mean, we're working on stuff that I could never have imagined working on. And that's really testament to the team rather than myself and their skill set and everything else. But yeah, I never really wanted to have my own business. I wasn't one of those people growing up that was like, oh, I want to have my own business or whatever. It's kind of happened to me by accident, I guess, rather than by design.
It's interesting, isn't it? How like you could come up with the best plan and it not end up working out, but you've gone like the opposite way
100%.
and
Yeah.
sort of had a bit of a foundation to start with.
Yeah.
Something to give you a bit of a platform
Yeah.
to sort of launch off, and it's just gone from strength to strength.
Yeah, so my family laugh at me because when I was 20, I had like a 10-year plan and I was like, I'm going to do all this stuff and I'm going to achieve these certain things. And I can remember my auntie and my mum saying to me, like, you can plan, but don't have too much of a plan because, like, the world's got a way of kind of putting you on your ass if that's not what you're meant to be doing. And that actually happened to me. So I left uni. I'd done really well at uni. Got a first. I wrote like a mega dissertation.
Is this in like marketing related?
Yeah, so I did my degree in advertising. I'm one of those people who went and did the career that they trained in. So yeah, I did that. I loved it. Did everything you're meant to do, and ended up getting offered a job before I'd left uni. Went home for the night to like celebrate with friends, which is back home down south. Went out with one of my best mates, and we got absolutely trolleyed. Like had a great night. And then the next day he got up and he got on his motorbike and had a really bad accident and smashed himself to pieces and, you know, everything else. And that kind of changed the course of events. I decided then not to move to Manchester. I decided to come back home for a bit. And I think I kind of went through this bit of realization of I spent a lot of time working on like this plan and putting a lot of time into that and haven't really spent time with the people that I care about and want to be around. So I did that. I think I did about 3 months and my mum was just like, this like countryside life is not for you. Like you need to kind of go and be where you want to be. So moved up to Manchester. In one day I went and looked at like 10 flats, did 3 interviews, got myself a job, got myself a flat, and came back up to Manchester. And then 3 months later, went back home, Easter weekend, ended up going out with another friend, got trolleyed, came home, and I ended up having the bad accident. I stepped out of a taxi and it was really icy. I can't remember where Easter fell that year, but it was really cold. There was like snow and ice on the ground. And where I grew up is quite rural. So, you know, it wasn't gritted or anything like that, kind of country lanes. And I got out of this taxi and put my foot down and my foot went the opposite way to me, fell to the ground. Taxi driver picks me up. The foot goes the other way and then it's just like a mess. So ended up in hospital, had to have my ankle reconstructed, wheelchair, learn to walk again on that foot. And again, my plan kind of went to shit again, and ended up losing the job that I'd got in Manchester because obviously I'd only been there a couple of months, couldn't work, didn't know when I'd be coming back.
Yeah.
And then funnily enough, the company that I ended up working for, where I ended up as head of Europe and Africa, I applied for that job while I was kind of in recovery and at a point where I'd started to do physio and like walk, but I hadn't done stairs or anything. And I went for the interview and the guy interviewing me was like, oh, we just got to the boardroom and it was upstairs and I hadn't learned how to do stairs. So I was like, fuck, I've just got to do it. So the first time I did stairs was like going to this interview. And then when I got the job, I told him about that and he said, I did think it was weird, like how long you were taking to like get up the stairs. I hadn't walked upstairs in however long. I'd gone up on my bum for the past 3 months. Certainly wasn't going to do that just before an interview. So yeah, that you can have like the best laid plans. And you can also have and this is something I know you and I have talked about before, you can also have that plan of what everyone thinks that you should be doing at certain points in your life. But I do genuinely believe that if that is not what is meant for you, the world will just put you on your ass and force you. There's a great saying that my sister always says that you'll never find peace in something that's not meant for you. Like it will always feel like chaos. It will always feel like it doesn't fit or it doesn't work. And I think that's really true. And I think I really lean into that feeling. Certainly a feeling that I lent into kind of as I got older and later in life. And, you know, you start getting to the age where people are talking about babies and getting married and everything. And I just had this feeling in me of like real resistance to that and knowing that wasn't the right thing for me to be doing or, you know, the relationship I was in at the time was not the right relationship to be in. So I think having those things happen to me earlier in life that kind of threw me off course have made me better at dealing with, well, if it isn't going the way that you thought it was going to go or something completely throws a spanner in the works, kind of lean into that. Don't resist it because it's probably trying to put you, this all sounds quite universal, doesn't it? But it's probably trying to put you onto a path that you're meant to be on. And it might be uncomfortable and it might be difficult, but, you know, sometimes you just have to be flung in a different direction to land where you're meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you've like there's quite a bit of adversity to sort of deal with early on in your life there, and I guess it's difficult at the time, isn't it? But then, as you say, have you got the benefit of having to deal with
Mm.
that, react to it, and come out the other end? Then it sort of gives you experience and sort of
Yeah, and
strategies for dealing with it as it comes up
100%.
again.
And I always say, like, to go through shit, you have to go through shit. You have to build resilience. You have to build, a bit of a thick skin. You have to learn that things aren't always going to go the way that you want them to go. Or if you do really want something, you really have to go for it. And there's not many things that are going to come handed to you on a plate. So if you want something, work for it and work hard for it. Don't just expect it to land in your lap, because it's probably not going to. I mean, you and I could sit here now and think about all the great things that have happened in our life. How many of those things have just happened to us, and how many have been the result of either hard work or discipline or focus? Like, there's probably very little good that has happened through doing nothing at all.
Mhm.
And I think some people can be kind of a bit afraid of that effort. Everyone wants the result. Everyone wants it's a bit like success. I think everybody says they want success, but I think what people want is the nice looking life on Instagram. They want the nice car, the nice house, good looking partner, family, whatever that looks like for you. What they don't want is all the hard work that goes into that. I think it was Messi that said it took him 18 years to become an overnight success. And I think that's a great quote, because that is true. Like, graft, as we've talked about, is at the heart of everything. And if you are willing to work, I think good things will happen. But I think too many people want what's on the other side of the hard work. And I think a lot of people, sometimes when they get that, realize actually maybe that isn't what they were striving for.
Yeah, I think that's probably what, from my experience, people probably miss that step of actually working out what it is that they want, and you just sort of, if you're not careful, you get whisked away with the dream, don't you? Like you've described there.
Or other people's idea
Yeah,
of what your ideal should look like.
it sets the wrong expectation, doesn't it? And I think that's when people get disappointed or frustrated, is that you get to a certain point and it's like, this isn't quite what I expected it would have been.
Yeah, and I think you have to take ownership and responsibility, really, for making sure you get to those things that you want. Because it is easy to get swept along with life and go, well, I'm at this age, so I should be doing this, or I'm at that age, so I should be doing that, or this is what success looks like, so I need to strive for that. Success to you might be completely different to what success to me looks like. But you have to know yourself, and I think you have to go, as I say, through things that really nail down and show you who you are. There's things that I've gone through in the last, 3 years that have really shown me who I am and what I'm capable of, what I can handle. That I didn't know 3 years ago that I could do those things or would be able to cope with those things. And I think you do have to push yourself to that point, because you're just not accountable to anyone else other than your future self. And I think I always want to be able to sit down with myself in 10 years' time and look back and go, do you know what? You made the right decisions based on the information you had at the time. And everything you did was with intent, really.
Yeah. So how, like we spoke there about sort of understanding yourself to the point where you can forge ahead on the right path. It sounds like you've been able to do that. How there'll be people that sort of perhaps listen to this that just sort of feel a little bit stuck or trapped. If you had to give somebody advice as to sort of how to sort of take those first steps,
Yeah.
what would you say?
So the first thing I would say is, if you're not happy where you are, you're not a fucking tree. You can move. That you don't have to, no one is stuck. And I don't care who you are, what position you're in. Some people's positions might be harder, more uncomfortable to get out of or move from, but nobody is stuck. And that is kind of something that I really hold at my core. And something that, a few years ago, I really did have to kind of lean into and trust that intuition. Gut feeling is great. I think more people should trust their gut. And if your gut is telling you something isn't right, whether that be a situation, a job, a relationship, anything, it could be a decision, it could be anything. If your gut is saying this isn't right, I really think that's strong intuition that you should use. And as I say, a few years ago, that was kind of where I was, where on the face of it, I was 30. I had a beautiful house. I had a partner that all my single friends said, oh, he's great. I wish I could meet someone like him. He was like the picture perfect, partner. Dog, beautiful holidays, great job, great family. Everyone got on. On the face of it, you'd think she's fucking nailed it. But I was miserable. I was really unhappy. I was really unhappy in my job. I was really unhappy in myself. I was overweight. I'd had I'd had a fantastic career and fantastic jobs, but they were really unhealthy. I traveled a lot. I didn't prioritize my own health and fitness and everything else. I wasn't happy in the relationship that I was in. I think I was kind of coming to the realization that, and again, we've had this conversation before, I was kind of turned 30 and there's this massive expectation that, okay, we're 30 now. So, time for babies, time to get married, time for this next stage in life. And I didn't have any of those feelings, didn't want to do any of those things. And I think when I'd been younger, I think I'd always just felt like, oh, I'm just not ready to have a baby or ready to start a family. And then as I got older and kind of closer to that time where you would be doing those things, I think I realized, oh, this isn't, I'm not ready. This is, I don't want to do those things. I don't want to have a baby. I don't want to start a family. And that was difficult because I was in this situation where, I think of it like a Jenga tower. Like I could pull one block out and the whole thing could fall apart. And I was by moving out of that uncomfortable situation that I was in, I was going to impact and change a lot of lives, the life of my partner, the life of our families. There's such a domino effect that comes off the back of it. And that wasn't lost on me at all. And I had to do quite a lot of soul searching to really, I guess, fully appreciate and understand that is how I felt. But there were so many other things. The relationship was one thing, the job was another, how I felt and my own lifestyle, my own health was another. And I kind of have these really basic philosophies, and another one is just change one thing. If there's lots of things going on, what can you control and what can you change? Start with that. And then it's amazing how many things kind of spiral off the back of that to either work themselves out, or you just kind of get clearer or clarification, or something that seemed massive suddenly seems quite small. So I started with my job. So I left my job and started Co&Co. At the same time, I decided I was going to sort my body out. So I got a PT. I basically handed my body over to her and just said, please just sort this out. Like I feel awful. And I think what was really key to that, particularly with the body and the kind of health stuff, was I started that because I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to look different. I wanted to feel better about myself. We'd just come off the back of COVID where I've had to look at myself on camera for how long and just been like, God, is that actually what I look like? So, the implication of doing that, though, the mental kind of benefits to it started to really outweigh the physical stuff. Yes, I was losing weight and I was feeling better, and all of that stuff was good, but it was the headspace and it was the clarity and it was the happy head that I was getting that became like the driver. That became like the drug, and the thing that I was chasing was I just wanted to feel in this happy space, and I got that through exercise. So I really got into it, and as a result I lost 5 stone in 18 months. Like I absolutely kind of went hell for leather. So then I was kind of in a position where the job was sorted. I'd started Co&Co, that was doing well. I'd sorted my health out, and I really had changed my whole lifestyle. Like, people say to me, what did you do? Did you just like do a bit more exercise and eat a few more salads? It's like, yeah, and then like 72,000 other things as well. It was a real lifestyle shift. So those two things are kind of sorted, and then I was back to my fix one thing, and that was the relationship. And I'd kind of really got to the point there where I knew that wasn't the right relationship for me to be in. It wasn't the right relationship for him to be in. He wanted to have a family, and he wanted to be married and have that unit. And I can sit here now and say that he is probably one of the best people that I know in the entire world. He's one of the kindest, most just wonderful people, and I wanted that life for him as well. And that was difficult to end that after 7 years. And I think that, there's probably people that still haven't forgiven me for that decision. And I'm kind of all right with that now. Like, I get it. But yeah, you really just have to lean into what do you need? Like, what do you need to feel fulfilled and everything else? We could have stayed together and, would we be happy now? Probably not. Would I still have that feeling inside me of is this what my life's meant to be? Probably. But if you don't make those decisions when you have that feeling, that intuition, you collect more stuff and you collect more responsibility and you collect more reasons why you shouldn't change or move where you are. And I think that's why people, kind of like you said, end up in that rut or that feeling of being stuck, because the longer you leave it, the more things you collect and stick to you. And then the harder it is to shed those things. There's never a Sunday in April. It's never a good time to make hard decisions. And sometimes your decisions are, which arm do you want to break first? Like, I think a lot of people as well wait for a more comfortable option or an easy decision to come along, and then you can go, oh, I've got this really bad option, or I've got this really good option, right, well, I'll go for the good option. Sometimes there aren't, and you have to accept that, and you have to accept that not every decision is going to be a nice, easy, clear cut.
So yeah, I think like that must be a journey that so many people like either go on or sort of think about. Like when you say like sort of trusting your gut, was it something that you just completely relied on yourself, or did you take like advice from other people on the way? I know on the fitness side you had input from like a PT, but what sort of other people did you rely on for like those decisions?
Yeah, so I'm quite an internal person. So I make quite a lot of decisions based on myself and my own feeling. It takes me a while to make big decisions. I don't rush into things. I think sometimes people can think that I do rush into stuff. I don't. Like that decision that, about my partner, my relationship, that had been a couple of years in the making of feeling not right. But I did rely on other people. I talked to my PT quite a lot about it. I talked to my partner about it. We were both in that relationship, and I talked to him about how I was feeling. But a lot of it, I just do trust my own kind of feeling on things. Obviously, friends and people like that as well that are close to me. But I think with big decisions like that as well, you run the risk of just going and collecting opinions, and then it kind of dilutes what you should then probably do, because you're going to you ask 10 people, you get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep that circle small. So there were a few really close friends that I confided in who knew both of us, and could be kind of quite objective. And as I say, kind of my PT, who saw me regularly and recognised kind of change in me, and she's quite attuned to me. She actually, at the end of last year, was going through a really hard time. Just lots of kind of things a bit outside of my control going on, and she actually suggested I go and start talking to a therapist that's based at the gym. It's like talking therapy. And I was really like dismissive, because I make all my decisions pretty much on my own. Anyway, fast forward a few weeks, and I thought, no, like I'm just not getting anywhere by sitting on this and I can't get to the right answer myself. So I went and saw this therapist, and I've been seeing her now since the start of the year, and I think it's probably one of the best things that I ever did. And I did start the first session by going, just so you know, this isn't for me. Like, I'm not into this at all. But it's amazing how having someone objective who's got no skin in the game with you, doesn't know you other than what you tell them, doesn't love you, they want good things for you, obviously, because of what their job is, but they've got no loyalty or allegiance to you. It's amazing about having that perspective in your life really helps. And sometimes we'll go and talk about kind of banal crap that isn't really important in the grand scheme of things, but having that outlet allows me to have the headspace and then think about the things that are really important and that I do need to give focus to and make decisions on. So I think had I had that experience with a therapist back then, I think I probably would have gone down that route as well. I mean, I can't recommend that enough to people. And I think for a long time, I thought it was kind of a bit of a sign of weakness. But I think what I've learned is it's not actually, and it's a tool, and I spend a lot of time and money and investment in looking after myself physically, but we don't spend anything on looking after ourselves mentally. And I guess that's how I see it. I kind of see it as like it's probably how I've written it off in my head, like a bit of a workout for my brain once a week. But I think it's important to have those outlets when you are making big decisions.
Yeah. Anyone that I speak to about therapy says it's just like one of the best things I've ever done. And they always recommend it. But yeah, I think it just seems like we don't really have that many sort of deep or anything beyond like surface level conversations, do we, in like modern life? Unless it's like with like a partner or a really close knit circle of people.
Yeah.
And you just don't get through to sort of some of the interesting stuff without doing that, do you?
I agree. And I think as well, if you present as someone who is quite independent and strong and assured, I think people assume you're fine. I think people assume that, you're actually okay, when in reality, that can kind of be your biggest weakness, because people do just think, well, they're obviously fine. Look at them. They're getting on. They're coping. They're, productive. They're all these things. And I think those are sometimes the people you really kind of need to check on the most, because a lot of the time, because they are those type of characters, people will be relying on them for support or for advice or whatever it might be. And, it's, you have to check on those people. There's that saying, isn't there? Always check on the clowns, like they're the saddest people. So, but you're right. There's very little opportunity to get into those nitty gritty conversations with people, and you don't want to be judged. Like you don't want to say something. You don't want to say something, or I'm probably talking about myself now personally. If I haven't come to the conclusion in my own head as to what I'm going to do, I don't want to voice it, because the worst thing someone could say to me is, what's your plan? And for me to say, I don't know. And that could be personal, that could be professional. I need to have the answers for myself and for other people. So I think we're sometimes probably not comfortable in having those conversations until we're at a point of going, yes, all this stuff happened to me and it was really hard, but this is how I'm going to deal with it, or this is how I did deal with it. And I guess, for guys, it's probably even harder. I think women orbit around other women. I know that if, I was going to have a shit day or a row with a partner or whatever, I know that there are a handful of women that I could call immediately, and they'd all be round, and it'd be, Prosecco ambulance and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think men do the same thing. I don't think men have those outlets. You all go and sit in the pub, and the first thing you do is take the piss out of each other and, fuck have you come as and everything else. Like, women don't do that. Women, kind of care a lot about each other, and there isn't that bravado, with women. So I do think that it's a lot harder for men probably to talk about things than it is women.
Yeah, I think especially in like a group situation, and as you get older probably as well, like there's not as many opportunities to actually see people.
Which is mad, because if you're girls and you're all sat there on a Saturday or whatever, everyone's talking about their problems. Like it's a free-for-all. But can you imagine 6 blokes sat in the pub on a Saturday all talking about their feelings and their relationships and asking for advice?
It's definitely like not common. It does tend to be like the default things like football or work, family.
Yeah.
The usual stuff that people are interested in, but it does rarely sort of go beyond that.
Yeah, and probably not the things you really want to talk about.
No, I think it's everyone's different, aren't they? I'm sure the people that are better at it than others, but I think it's especially when you're busy and sort of you're on that sort of momentum of just a busy life, taking the chance just to stop and actually sort of think, who am I with? How can we help each other out?
Yeah.
It's probably something that doesn't happen because you're just used to meeting up.
Yeah.
Having a couple of beers with someone, having a coffee.
Yeah.
Training with someone.
Yeah.
Doing that, then just going doing something else.
Yeah. And like obviously I'm not a bloke, so I don't know how it works, but like, would you ever just text your mate randomly just in the day, just be like, hi mate, you okay? How's your day? Would you?
No,
Whereas that's not an abnormal thing for a girl to do. Just to, hi, how are you? How's your day going? You okay?
It'd be more in like a catch-up sort of context than actually wanting to know how they're doing, unless it was sort of a very specific reason why.
Yeah.
And that's probably not uncommon.
No, I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah. So that fitness journey then, 5 stone in 18 months, did you say?
Yeah.
That must have been difficult as much as it was like amazing. Like, what were some of the things on that journey that kept you progressing? Like, did you ever sort of have difficult moments where it felt like it was a bit too much, or did the momentum just keep you going?
Yeah, so I think if I'm honest now, looking back, I really used that time and exercise as an escape from the relationship side of things. It was kind of my safe place twice a week that I could go to, and I didn't have to pretend that I was anything other than what I was right there. I'm also massive on like accountability. So if I've said I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And if I'm going to do something new, I want to be the fucking best at it. Like, I'm rubbish at learning new skills, because unless I've just started boxing, for example, so unless within like a few weeks I can see progress, I get really hard on myself. There were definitely difficult times where I thought, oh, like, you know, there might have been a
Because that initial progress is quite slow, isn't it?
yeah,
On a transformation of that extent.
yeah,
And a
yeah.
lot of people find that first month or 2 months to get a little bit of motivation, and disappears because the results don't come.
Yeah, exactly. And that is kind of where that mind shift has to happen. You have to completely shift your mind from, this is not a quick thing. Like, if you're going to do it, you really have to commit. And I guess the best example I can give you of that is the PT that I'm still with now. And I think, God, she can't ever retire. Like, I rely on her far too much. But I initially did like a 6 week like block with her, with a friend of mine. And bear in mind, I was like 5 stone overweight. I was 14 and a half stone at my biggest. So I was 14 and a half stone. And
What were your goals going into that then? Was it just to
I thought in 6 weeks I'll be like a fucking supermodel. I genuinely thought, like, I'll be a size 8, I'll look amazing, I'll feel great in 6 weeks. And this is what I mean. I don't think enough people go into it the mindset of, it's going to take time. Even if you can do something in 12 weeks, to maintain that, it's a mindset shift, it's a lifestyle shift. And I think that was the bit for me. It was the learning that you can't just do this for a period of time. This has to be your life now.
Yeah.
This working out, this eating right, the nutrition, all of that stuff has to now become second nature. You have to just do it without thinking about it. And that was the tough bit.
So is there any like strategies or things that you can remember that you used
Oh,
to do
God.
it?
I lived my life on an Excel sheet, tracking macros, tracking calories, my Apple Watch. I actually now can't wear my Apple Watch because I've kind of got a bit too obsessed with it. So I think I've stayed too in the mindset of weight loss. So every day when I was losing weight, I was in a deficit of like 1,000 or 1,500 calories a day, which is massive. Like,
Yeah.
that's loads.
How long was that for then?
I was doing that probably for a good year.
Right.
So eating right, exercising loads, walking loads, doing my step, anything I could, I was doing it. And it's probably why I got the result as quick as I did, because I was really determined and really focused on it.
And did you like manage to do that
Yeah.
consistently? You didn't have any like bad weeks or?
No, I mean, I also didn't really do anything other than that for a year. So
Yeah.
I didn't go out. Like, my friends all say, like, you went home one day, you came out 12 months later and you were a different person. Like,
Yeah.
everything about you was different.
Yeah.
So I really I can be really laser focused on something, and I was really laser focused on that. But now I can't wear my Apple Watch, because if I have a day where I'm not 1,000 calorie deficit, I'm like, right, well, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and the 5 stone's going to be back on, and that's not right. So, you know, I know I eat right, I know I exercise well, I know I look after myself. I am not as intense as I was, because I'm obviously more in like a maintaining level. But yeah, I was really, really, really focused on it, and there wasn't anything that was going to kind of deter me. And it was actually because of how great I was feeling doing it, and the positive feeling it was giving me. I actually tried to bring my partner along with that. And I think he took that at the time of, she wants me to be different. I couldn't have given a shit if he'd lost a pound or not. Like, it wasn't about that for me. It was, I was really unhappy and now I'm happier because I'm doing this. I want you to be happier as well. Maybe if we do this together, that will make you happier. It might bring us closer together. Anyway, it didn't. I think he kind of resisted it. Someone actually said to him when we broke up, well, it's because she's lost all this weight and now she thinks she's like whatever, which just couldn't have been further from the truth. And luckily it was said by someone who I couldn't really give a shit about. But, I think I felt so strongly that it was having such a positive impact on my life that I really wanted to bring him along with that as well. And I wanted that to be something that we could do together, but it ended up not being that way.
Yeah. I mean, the complete opposite of that. Like my wife and I did in lockdown. There was a new gym that had opened near us, and it literally, as lockdown came, they tried to open the doors and couldn't. So they did put all this investment into the gym, put all the effort into getting it ready, and just didn't have the option to open. And they started doing like Zoom classes. And Jo, my wife, was just like, we should do this. We've been looking for something to do together. We should just do it and see.
That's amazing.
And like, it was lockdown, so everyone sort of found something they enjoyed doing, didn't they? And stuck with it. And that was our thing. And like,
most people found day drinking.
Yeah. So it was like really productive. It like brought us closer together, doing something together. And we've been looking for ages for something to like channel our energy into together.
That's amazing. And I would love something like that. And I think it's so good that you both recognise that, because I think what I've recognised is that, in future relationships, having those kind of anchors together is so important. And I know you've got kids as well, and obviously that brings a different dimension to it. But I think you have to find things that you can share and enjoy together that isn't just going to the pub or going for dinner or what. Like, I love doing those things. Anyone who follows me on any type of social media will know that I love Guinness and I love going to the pub and everything else. But I think you have to have those things that you can come together over that are different, and you can push each other. And I think that's incredible.
I think it is, like you were saying, a bit of a barrier as well for sort of individual progress in a relationship sometimes. Because I know people do think that, like, why is that? Why are they trying to do something different? Like, why are they trying to get in better shape? But there's all those sort of questions start to run through people's minds, don't they?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And unless, it kind of goes back to what we were saying before, unless you're having those conversations, then people are gonna come to their own conclusions. I got into fitness and health because I was really unhappy with how I felt, how I looked, and I actually wanted to get back to how I'd been before. The reality is I went way further than that and, got in like the best shape of my life. But I think that understanding and that, I guess, reassurance for that other person of I'm doing this for me and I would really like you to be part of it is so key and so important. I think because I was also trying to work out the relationship side of things, I think I needed something for me that I could enjoy and anchor to. And at the point that I then saw the benefit of it and tried to bring my partner into it, I think that ship had sailed.
Yeah. Interesting. So you mentioned like boxing. Is that?
Yeah.
Was that like an aim at the start, or has it just evolved over time?
So I've only recently just started, and I basically wanted a new challenge. When I got into fitness, so all my other training is like weightlifting, weight training, very little cardio. My PT will tell you I fucking hate cardio apart from walking the dog. She keeps trying to make me become a runner. It's just not gonna. I'm just not built to be a runner. And I just wanted something different. I just wanted something that was a new challenge that I didn't know, that I had to learn, and that was a different type of fitness. So I just thought I'll try boxing. I never want to have a fight. I just want to do it for fitness. But it's so different to weight training. Different. Everything is different. Weight training, you have to be planted to the ground. You have to be solid. Boxing's the complete opposite. You have to be light. You have to be fast. It's a completely different discipline. And I've got frustrated with it at times because I'm not immediately good at it.
Yeah.
But it's just a new challenge. I also kind of fell into a bit of I mentioned I was in a bit of a bad place at the end of last year. I kind of got myself into a position where everything I was doing was about work. Everything was about Co&Co. Everything was about driving it forward. Everything was about, making it bigger, making it better. And I was working constantly. I actually got to Christmas Eve last year. I nearly called everybody and just said, you can't come, because I couldn't imagine having a couple of days where I wasn't working. And I got myself in a really, really bad place. I look back now and I think I was definitely at burnout. I mean, Christmas Day, I didn't speak. I was mute. I didn't talk. I just kept going off, couldn't stop crying. I was really in a bad place because I wasn't working. So for me, going to a boxing class or a boxing coach on a Sunday morning stops me getting up and going to work on a Sunday. If I can do some work in the afternoon, or if I need to, I can. But it stops me getting up at 6 and going to work and sitting in an office all day, just to go and sit in the office all day again on Monday. So I need to almost put these like little interventions in for myself of, you're doing boxing at that time, which means you can't do work. And, I need to put those, I guess, what's the word? Boundaries in for myself. I have great boundaries with everybody else. So I'm really rubbish at having boundaries with myself. So I'm trying to do that at the moment. And I'd like to be in a new relationship one day, and I'm not going to be very good at that if I haven't made time and space for somebody to be in my life. I think I'd be a horrendous partner at the moment.
So like that experience you had towards the end of last year, like how has that impacted you on like work-life balance?
So first of all, I think
there is.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think work-life balance is a really interesting conversation. I think the best way I've ever seen it described is like a rickety stool. If you sit on a stool that's not stable, you're going to have to constantly shift your weight to be comfortable. And I think work-life balance is the same. I think sometimes you're going to have to lean in a little bit more one way than another. I don't think you can ever sit dead on the stool and it be stable and be comfortable. I think you're always going to have to adjust. And I think that is work-life balance. The important thing is that you do move, that you don't stay so far over one way. You do readjust when you can. And it's something that, again, through therapy, I've really tried to work on, is kind of understand it. Look, I work in marketing. No one's going to die or live because of what I do for a job. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's just having a bit of that realization and, making time for people, whether that be family, whether that be relationships, whether that be for myself. Like, what do I want to do? That isn't work, that isn't gym, isn't, walking the dog. What do I want to do? So I definitely wouldn't say I've nailed work-life balance by any stretch. It's definitely something I'm working on. But I think I do have a healthier kind of approach to it. And now, if I've got to do some work on a weekend, I'll try and just do some in an afternoon rather than a whole day, or I'll try and take the time back in the week if I can. Not always possible, but where I can, I'll try and do that. But I think work-life balance is hard, and I think it's harder if you try and aim for this like perfect 50-50 split or whatever split you want. I just don't think that's possible.
I think like blend's a better word than balance.
Definitely, yeah.
So is there anything based on what you went through last year that you would use as like telltale signs, or that you would do differently if you sort of felt like you were going that way again?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for me last year was I was making decisions based on what could make money potentially. And that could be, I could go and spend the afternoon with my family, or I could go to work. Which one is there a chance that I'll make money? And I don't mean for me, I mean for the business. I mean, where's the growth going to come from? It's not going to come from me sitting with my family for an afternoon. It's going to come from me sitting in the office and getting ahead for the week and catching up on prospects and all that kind of stuff. So that for me was like I look back now and I think, God, that's just not me. Like, I am so family orientated. I love my family. I'm incredibly close with my family and my siblings, and I've got 2 nieces who I think are amazing. And I think I look back now and think that wasn't me. That isn't how I think. That isn't how I prioritize time. It's not how I value time. So I think if I ever got into that space again, I would definitely check myself. I think I also just stopped being able to like find joy in things. I almost felt like I was watching my life from kind of 10,000 feet and not really in it. And I think that is another telltale sign of when you feel disconnected from yourself. That's quite scary, actually, because again, in a position where everyone thinks, oh, she's done this and she started a business and it's growing and it's doing well, and she's got the lifestyle she wants now and she's healthy and she's happy, and what she got to moan about type thing. And then you feel the complete opposite to that. You feel kind of, well, I don't feel happy and I don't feel fulfilled and I don't feel that I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. And actually, I feel more disconnected from myself than I have done for a really long time. And I think last year is the closest I've come to feeling how I felt when I made those big life decisions those few years ago. Which again is kind of why I knew you've got to do something here, because you've felt these things before.
Yeah.
It just was being caused by other things this time.
Yeah. I guess every time it crops up, you've got another set of experience to sort of
100%.
throw at it, haven't you?
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I can say is now, what are we about to be in September? 9 months on from that, I feel like a completely different person. I'm definitely healthier, happier. I am getting better at the work-life balance thing. I'm making space and time for somebody in my life. So I feel like I'm moving in the right direction with things. Because, I don't want to go back to where I was at the end of last year.
Yeah. That's good, like positive steps, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess so much of what we talked about is like personal development and sort of your journey. Looking at it sort of bringing back sort of a bit of the business side and sort of what you're doing is like personal brand, which I know is like a big element of what you do with Co&Co.
Yeah.
So it's quite we'll come back to like generic terms again, haven't we?
Yeah.
Personal brand, like.
That probably a marketing person came up with.
Yeah.
Just as like, I'll just say this.
Yeah. So I think like there's benefits to everyone probably these days looking to sort of build out a personal brand, or maybe not everybody, but people that are interested in it. What sort of things should they be thinking about to build a good personal brand, and what are some of the benefits they might be able to take from doing that?
So I think the first thing, and we have these conversations all the time with people that say, I want to build a personal brand, or I want to build a profile of myself in the industry or whatever, is if you want to do that, the first thing you have to be comfortable with is being personal. So you can't say, I want to create a whole brand around myself and only talk about what you do for a living, because that's, well, who were you then before you did that for a job? What were you doing before that?
How far do you need to go with that?
You go as far as you're comfortable going. So for me, my personal brand is probably quite personal, quite I don't really hold back. I've shared a lot about some of the stuff we've talked about today, for example, whether that be my approach to things, whether that be the journey that I've gone through. I'm very open about it.
Yeah.
And I think that you have to do what's comfortable for you. But the whole idea of personal brand is that you're building authenticity around yourself. And there's an exercise that we do with people when we're doing this, and we ask them to write down 4 things. If I just met you and I said, okay, Chris, tell me 4 things about you, the chances are you'll probably jump straight into what you do for a job or the industry you work in or whatever. And probably out of those 4 things, 2 of them would probably be something to do with your career or your job. And they'd probably be the first couple of things on the list as well. You might get down and say that you're a dad, or, you're into high or whatever it is. But the point is, we all lead with what we do for a job. And actually, that's the least you're going to have in common with someone. If you came in to talk to me today and you needed help with marketing, that's the least that we're going to have in common, because you have something and I provide a service for it. The reality is we'll bond over a million different things, as we have done. We talked about fitness, we talked about families, talked about all this type of things. That is where your personal brand really comes into it, because it sounds really shit and corny, but people really do buy people. If you can sell to a person, you will sell to their business. And you have to build relationships with people. People want to trust you, and to trust you, they have to have empathy with you, and to have empathy with you, they have to know about your experiences. So we do really try and push people kind of a bit out of their comfort zone, really. Our whole kind of process starts with a bit of a 4-hour deep dive session, normally with lunch in there as well. And we ask loads of questions about them, from tell me how you grew up to how did you end up doing what you're doing? What don't you like about what you're doing? If you could change one thing about the sector you're in, what would you change? What is the hardest thing you've had to overcome? What did you learn from it? All these things we're trying to pull out, because that is what has made you, you. And that's what you have to share. If you're going to build a personal brand, the personal bit is really important.
And like, what are some of the benefits that people could expect to sort of take from building a personal brand?
So
Yes, there's two ways, isn't there? There's like probably like the business owner, like yourself, and then like somebody who's working with
yeah,
it.
so that's a really good point. So it's really easy for me to sit here as someone who owns a business going, yeah, have a personal brand and, you know, everything else. If you go on Co&Co's website, it sounds exactly as I talk, because it was just me at the start and it's been built around that. So there's loads of benefits for a business owner to obviously have a personal brand. The benefits for an employee to have a personal brand is also huge, because you might not want to work at that company your entire life. You might want to go somewhere else. And actually, one thing that we're hearing from recruiters that we've done work with and things in the past is the amount of people now who are asking for proof of a personal brand, or proof that that person has created a persona, a following, whatever it is that you want to call it, outside of their job, is massive. It's really becoming important. The role of personal brand manager is growing all the time. So from an employee's perspective, having that persona, having that profile is great for when it comes to looking for a new job, or when you're looking to make the next move, or just showcasing what you can do. From an employer's perspective, you really need to encourage employees to have a personal brand, because what comes with that is brand advocacy. And as a company, you know, I want everyone in my team to be singing the praises of Co&Co and how great Co&Co is and what we do and the people that we work with and what we're about. You don't get that if you stop people from posting, talking, sharing, and it has to be authentic. People kind of run the risk of using their company pages on LinkedIn, for example, to talk about end of year numbers or an award or a new deal or whatever. Apart from your shareholders and the owner, no one cares about that stuff. So what the company page should do is talk about the individuals, and what the individuals should do is talk about the company, and the advocacy should go both ways. So you should have a company singing the praises of individuals within that business, whatever that might be. Now, it might be that they have done something incredible at work and you want to share it. It might be that they've done something incredible out of work and you want to share it. It might be that you've brought on a hire who on paper doesn't fit the bill, but these are all the reasons that you've done it. All of those things give personality, they give a personal side to a business that a business can't have because it isn't a person. An individual can amplify that for a business. You know, if you and I were going to look for a job tomorrow and we went on and we looked at all the profiles of people that work there, if there were profiles of people talking about how amazing the culture is, this amazing project they've just worked on, what they were able to do in their personal life because they work for this company, we probably like, this is mega, like I really want this job. It's trust signals everywhere, and that's what you're leaving. It's breadcrumbs all over the place, these trust signals. And it's super important. You know, I know from my own experience of building a kind of profile and personal brand on LinkedIn, is the opportunities that come from it are massive. People know immediately when they come to meet me what they're going to get because they've seen it on LinkedIn. They're not surprised when I throw an F-bomb in, or, you know, whatever it might be. They know what I'm about. They know what we stand for. And you know, that works both ways. It's really, really important. And again, with clients, you know, opportunities that they've had, people that have connected with them, people that they've got in front of, because they've built this profile. And you shouldn't discount a LinkedIn lurker. They are gold, absolute gold. Those people that are there, when you look at your stats, you know, you might do a post that gets 100 likes, but your impressions are massive. Each one of those is a person. And those people, those eyeballs, they're the bit that really matters. And that is where the gold is. The amount of inquiries we get from what I would call LinkedIn lurkers, people that never like my posts, they never comment, but I might get a message that says, I've been following you for 6 months, or I've been watching what you're doing. I think it's mega. I'd really like to, normally would really like to go for a Guinness because I talk about it quite a lot, but it's it's amazing how many doors it opens and softens. You almost feel like you know someone before you meet them. I've been at events before where people have come up to me and started talking to me, and I've had to go, I'm really sorry, I don't know where we've met. And they've gone, oh, we haven't. I follow you on LinkedIn. And and you think, oh, that's great that you know that we're already at that point that you can kind of come and talk to me like that. So I think it's really important. I think it's really, really important for people to have.
So like, in like my side of real estate or property, there's definitely like a reluctance of people that working within businesses to use it, and I don't know whether that's through just not understanding how to use it properly, or a little bit of reluctance to sort of want to open up and be a little bit more personal. Like, what are your best tips from going from like 0 to 1?
Yeah, so we get asked this all the time, and the main reason people don't post on LinkedIn is they're scared. They think, what if I say something that's going to offend someone, or what if I say the wrong thing? And my response to that is, well, do you walk around normally just in the day talking to people, offending them and saying the wrong thing? No, you don't, because you're not a dickhead. Most people aren't. So all you're sharing on LinkedIn is what you're doing. And unless you're doing something really dodgy that, you probably wouldn't talk about anyway. If you talk about it with someone over a coffee, you should post about it on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. But you also need to remember it's social media, and as soon as it's said, as soon as it's forgotten. So as I say, unless you are going to say something completely outrageous and completely outlandish, the chances of you offending somebody or saying the wrong thing are so, so low. And actually, LinkedIn's algorithm wants conversation, it wants debate. So even if you are going to say something that might seem quite controversial, if you can start that conversation and you can back it up and you're not just going on a rant or being a keyboard warrior, the algorithm recognizes that and will reward you for that. So I think we might have talked about this before, but I did a post not long ago about how we are, as a business, not taking on any entry-level people who are straight out university, just not doing it anymore. We're going to go down either an apprenticeship route, or you can come, but you need to have done a couple of years somewhere before you're coming in. And the reason for that is my experience is that I've sat across from a lot of grads who are coming out of uni and, have really big expectations of what they should be allowed to do, what they should be able to do. And there's kind of been this, somewhere along the way, there's been this loss of graft. There's been this loss of understanding that you're new. Uni's great. It teaches you how to read a book and how to remember things. But, you'll probably know this. As soon as you're in the real world, that book goes out the fucking window. Is you then are in the real world, having to make quick decisions, do things fast. There isn't always the time to write audience personas for a brand or whatever. You've got to just work on your intuition and your logic and get through it. And I think I did a post about that. And I mean, it ended up on LinkedIn News because it really divided opinion. I had half the people who thought I was trailblazer and amazing. I had half people wanted to burn me at the stake. But the point is, I said something that wasn't offensive. It was based on experience. It was based on 12 years in this industry and what I know. And I said it. And off the back of it, we actually got an amazing young person come and join the business who saw it, didn't want to go to uni, had been working in marketing for a couple of years, saw what we were doing. We met her, mega, and it got me a great member of the team. Likewise, it opened opportunities where people have asked me to come and talk about it as a business owner, come and talk about why you've made that decision, come and talk to other businesses about why you should go down that road and not feel that you have to get into this. Well, I wait for them to finish uni and da-da-da-da. There are so many. I met a girl yesterday who has just done her A-levels, incredibly smart, incredibly switched on, has no desire to go to uni. She wants to learn. She wants to be in business. She wants to learn on the job and she wants to get involved. And I've got a lot of time for people like that, because that is, well, really, if we go back to what we started talking about at the start of the pod, that's one of those decisions. That's one of those moments of, do you go left or do you go right? The majority of people are going to go right and going to go to uni and they're going to get their bit of paper and everything else. The people that go left have really kind of gone against the grain there. And that's one of those flashpoint moments where you have to make a decision. But yeah, going back to LinkedIn, unless you are going to say something completely outlandish, you'll be fine.
Yeah. I think it's something you don't really understand the benefit of, I think, until you've given it a little bit of a go.
And you have to give it time. You have
Yeah.
to give it time.
Yeah, definitely. So the name of the podcast, Graft Concept.
Yeah, I've been really worried about you asking me this question.
Have you? So yeah, I think like GRAFT is an acronym. So growth, relationships, adventure,
Yeah.
fitness and teaching. 5 things that I think anybody who's looking to sort of develop or progress can focus on, and it'll point them in the right direction. So we've touched on quite a few of these as we've gone through, but
Yeah.
if you were to sort of summarize in like a short sentence or so, each of the 5, like we'll work through them, what would it be? So like growth, what does that mean to you?
Growth is for me is that trust in your gut. It's that you're not going to get anywhere unless you take risks, and the risk could be massive, could be tiny, but you are not going to progress unless you make those decisions. When you get to those flashpoints, when you get to those forks in the road, and you have to pick. As I said before, the longer you stay in one place, the more things you collect and the more things that stick to you, and the more burdened you become. You have to make the choice, and sometimes it is, what arm do you want to break first?
Relationships.
I'm not the person to ask, no.
I guess it's like, it could be any aspect of it though.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say is that I think relationships should be incredibly valued, like, and you should be bringing as much as you're getting. I know I've sat here and said, oh, I left my partner and and everything else, but I think relationships are incredibly important, and I think those bonds are incredibly important. And I don't have a massive circle of friends, but the people that I have around me are solid, and I know that I could trust with my life. And I think those are the type of relationships to focus on. Don't collect people, because that's just maintenance. Just have your solid people around you. And if that's a partner, that's amazing. If that's a friend, that's incredible. But value them and put time into them and nurture them, and also let go of the ones that aren't serving you. Don't hold on to people through a feeling of loyalty or time. I think that's one of the worst things people can do. Any type of relationship, people think a certain amount of time has passed and therefore you owe that person something. Well, I tell you what, I was in a 7-year relationship, and that's a long time, but the rest of my life was longer. So it's about having that perspective all the time, but hold on to the ones that really are giving you value and matter, but don't be afraid to let go of the ones that aren't. And it will hurt and it will be shit at times, but if your gut is telling you one way or the other, trust it.
Yeah, and it's just not just personal ones, is it? It's like your business. And
same with business.
Yeah.
If it's a job and it's not firing you up, if you're sitting there on a Sunday night and you hate it, you're not a tree. Like, move, go and find something else to do. If it's a boss, if it's anybody, if it's a client, we've had clients before where we've parted ways because we're not right for them, they're not right for us, and we're not getting the best out of the situation. So
it's hard enough without doing that, isn't it?
Hard enough.
Yeah.
It's hard enough.
Like adventure.
Oh God. I guess again, like take risks. Like, don't be afraid to take those risks. And push yourself. Go and say yes to things. Go and do things that might scare you a bit. Just do things that make you feel something. And don't be afraid of them. Don't shy away from something because it's not comfortable or because it's different or because you've never done it before. Loads of things you've never done before, but you've done them now. So yeah, don't shy away from things, I think. And always, I think, be curious. Have that kind of curiosity, which I think is tied to adventure of, always have that, but what if I did? Or what if I could? I think sometimes we're too stifled by, I can't do that, so I won't. Okay, we'll take the can't out. What if you could do it? Would that change your mind? Because then all you've got to do is find a way to do it. And I think that can sometimes open you up to things that you're not open to.
Yeah. Fitness.
Oh, everyone should prioritize fitness. It's so important. And it's not just, as I said before, the physical side of it and how you end up looking is great, but it's the mental piece for me. It's the mental health benefit that comes from fitness. And that, you could be someone who, okay, to look at or on a scales is overweight, but but that might be because you love rich food and you love red wine. But if you are exercising in any way that is, you will get those endorphins and you will get that good feeling. Being into fitness doesn't have to mean looking like a supermodel or, you know, an Instagram person or having a six pack or whatever. It's actually really hard to get a six pack, I found out. But just do it. Find the things. I hated the gym for years because I thought the gym was a treadmill and a cross trainer. I then got into weight training and thought this is amazing. I wish I'd done it sooner. I got into boxing and well, it's pissing me off a bit at the moment. I'm really enjoying it. So find that thing for you. What is fitness for you? Because if you are physically fit, mentally you're 10 times better.
Yeah. And then like teaching.
So yeah, I think this is something that's really important, and I really believe in it's called like passing it forward. And I think that I actually have spent quite a lot of time in my career in universities, in colleges, talking to people that want to get into my industry, talking to people that are planning the lessons or the modules or the courses around marketing. Because I think that if you are in an industry and you are of a certain level and a certain seniority, you have an obligation to make sure that the next lot of people coming through are equipped. We can't sit here as people that have been in our careers for 10, 15 years moaning that the next lot of people coming through don't know enough if we're not willing to help them and say, this is what you need to know. You know, my whole thing about the apprentices was not a dig at grads at all. The grads aren't writing the courses. It was a dig at universities. If you're not preparing these people for the real world, they're coming out and thinking that they're going to be the most creative, successful, working on all the fun stuff. That's just not how it works. So that was never a dig at grads. That was a dig at universities of be better, do better by them, teach them what they need, go into the industry and find people that can help you. So I think teaching is really important. And I've always got time for a coffee, a chat with anybody that wants to get into this industry and be honest about it and say, you know, again, my girl yesterday interviewed her for a job, and on the face of it, yeah, you'd go on Co&Co's website and think, God, they do really cool stuff and it's really creative. Or you walk in here and you go, this is amazing. You're doing press boxes and events and everything. Yeah, we are. That's 1% of it. 99% is process, it's delivery, it's planning, it's sign off, it's really unsexy stuff. And actually, by the time you get to this bit, the bit that looks nice, you're kind of over that. You're kind of bored of it. You've seen it that many times. So I think teaching is really important. But from a professional sense, I think if you are of a certain standing in your industry, you have an obligation to pass it forward and to pass knowledge back and say, this is what the industry is really like, and this is how you need to be prepared for it.
Yeah. No, they're really like solid answers.
Thanks.
I don't know what you were worried about. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to
Thank you.
sit down and have a chat. Thanks for sorting out this great location.
No problem.
It's been the best set we've had so far. If like people want to get in touch with you, follow, like where can they find you?
So best place for me is on LinkedIn. So Jordan Stachini. Pretty sure I'm the only person on there called Jordan Stachini. You'll know it's me because it talks about Guinness in my bio line. And also we are co&co.com. So yeah, that's where we are.
Brilliant. Thank you so much
Thank you
for taking the time.
Thanks.